schedule that's equal. What this government, this Weather or Labor government, says to volunteer firefighters who put their lives on the line is that you are lesser and we are probably going to fight you. If you get cancer and you come to us with a work cover claim, we're going to fight you. We're not going to give you presumption. We're going to fight you on your claim for work cover. We're going to shirk our responsibility, even though you put your life on the line to save our state, our property, and indeed the people of this state. Now, what I would note is while the government's just said that, that they've taken note of the science, it was the Honourable Kaya Ma who came into this place and said indeed that the science wasn't there to prove that volunteers and paid firefighters in this state should have been treated the same. It was this government that put up a bill that didn't even consider including one single volunteer. It was this council, this chamber, that pushed the government and indeed the Minister for Industrial Relations dragged kicking and screaming, not only to finally release the actuarial report that he kept quoting selectively from, but indeed to have an amendment to their government bill that did not in the first instance consider the plight of one single volunteer, to actually have a scheme that gave second-class citizen treatment to CFS volunteers. It was this council, indeed, that has long championed and long spoken to the CFS Volunteers Association, when I must note that it wasn't until the passage of the current legislation that indeed Minister Rao sat down and spoke with the CFS volunteers for the first time after repeated requests for a meeting. We've been through several ministers on this bill. We've been through several years of debate. It's no surprise to members of this chamber that the Greens were going to bring this back, and indeed I co-sponsor this particular bill with Dr Duncan McPetridge of the opposition, and I thank him for his ongoing commitment to this issue. I find it a little cute, to paraphrase one of the Labor ministers, a little cute that somehow the Weatherall government has a long-standing commitment to presumptive cancer compound legislation for CFS volunteers and is here to do the behest and the bidding of the CFS volunteers. If they spoke to the volunteers with respect, they would know that there's still industrial work bans on, that the volunteers of this state, the CFS volunteers, are still taking industrial action against members of the Weatherall government in not having photos for photo opportunities taken with members of your government, that they are continuing to maintain the rage, that they support this bill to the hilt, and that they just want equality and respect. It's the least that we can do for people who put their lives on the line for us, and if this fire season shows anything, it shows that we need them more than they need us. What I find cute is that you're coming in here asking for costings, yet your actuarial report we had to drag kicking and screaming out of you on the last sitting day in this place, and indeed, as I say, the assumptions made in that report that were quoted by the Minister for Industrial Relations selectively did not factor in the schedule of the 12 primary site cancers, did not start with the 5 years minimum qualifying period of service, and indeed 25 years in the case of esophageal cancer with a range in between, did not use those figures. And indeed, the opposition, with their costings in the election, came up with a much lesser figure, although it's quite a substantial figure. But the liability sits with us. So the financial impost of this bill is in fact a moot point. Because any volunteer firefighter and any paid firefighter who contracts cancer can indeed take that claim to work cover and have it assessed. What we do with the presumptive legislation is we put it out there and say this is a schedule by which more than likely we're going to presume that that cancer that you have contracted was linked to the act of your firefighting, to that brave act that we're very happy to stand and take photo ops with them straight after a fire, but indeed 5, 10, 25 years down the track when they contract cancer, we don't want to hear from them. It seems to be the story coming from this government. What we say to them is that we respect you and we treat the work that you do as a firefighter with the respect that it deserves by giving the CFS equality of the treatment that we've given the MFS when it comes to presumptive legislation on cancer compo. Now I've got to say, not a single person will go out and try to contract cancer to get compensation. of the underlying assumptions that the government makes here, that somehow this scheme will be aborted. Well, I've got to point out to you that somebody will have had to have fought fires for at least 5 years, and indeed, in some cases, more than 25 years to qualify, and then contract cancer, and one of the 12 specified cancers that are linked scientifically to the act of firefighting. That's a pretty high hurdle. What the government does in its current legislation is has a high hurdle for the MFS, and then it has an even higher hurdle. In fact, it has a steeplechase for the CFS. We have not politicised this issue. We have not come in here with our research not done it. It's been this government, time and time again, who has fudged this issue, who has listened to their union mates and not talked to the CFS volunteers, and indeed, who has been dragged kicking and screaming to something that I believe that we should have had cross-party work on right from the start. When I first took this issue to the government, it was the then Minister Snelling and indeed the then Minister Wortley, who I first spoke to about this issue. We should have had cross-party support for a bill to come before this place that indeed considered the science and indeed considered equality, as had been the case right up until that point under work cover. We had never treated the CFS volunteer firefighters differently from the MFS firefighters. We had always considered that a firefighter was indeed a worker for the purposes of the Work Cover Act. You were the ones, as a government, who stepped away from that absolute respect for the work of firefighting, whether it's paid or unpaid, and indeed you are the ones who suffered electorally as a result. Now, you did win government. You have made up with the minority government in the House of Assembly the numbers, but what I would say is, in fact, sitting in your cabinet is the Minister for Regional Development, indeed the man who co-sponsored the bill that we have before us here today, co-sponsored that bill, the member for Frome, with me in the last Parliament. Now, I would expect he will be voting for it this time round, and I know that he's been co-opted into your review. The review, I believe, is simply yet another stalling tactic from people who did not have the respect to work with the CFS volunteers from day one. I would also say that in your cabinet is, of course, the member for Waite, who has previously supported CFS equality, and we will certainly be keeping him to that previous support, and I'm sure the local Mitcham CFS volunteers will have something to say about it, should he not. With that, I commend the bill to Council.
I put the question of who